Hello, darling. This is River Roaring, celebrating the luminous life force in us all. Hello, darling. This is River Roaring, and this episode is about decoding your canine American, your dog. Your dog is a reflection of you. Your dog is a mirror. Now, why would River be talking about dogs on a podcast about sex and luminous life force? It's really very simple. Your energy is basically reflected in your dog. You know, my friend Kimmy Inch was just saying recently that she was dating a guy, and when she saw how he related with his dog, I think she left in the middle of the date. She did not date him anymore. And I would feel the same way if my energy is not right with my canine, my dog, if it's not an understood relationship that is harmonious and understanding of one another, then it's a reflection also on how your energy is going to be with humans. And so I remember when I was in my dark night of the soul, one of my dark nights of the soul, but like maybe my biggest one, the one that preceded my last 20 years of spiritual and sexual growth. So it was 20 years ago, and I was in a very great depression, and I couldn't do very much other than cry for about 2 weeks. Yes, this had to do with a breakup of a relationship, but it was obviously far more than that. It was more like a cracking of my identity and feeling like nothing meant anything anymore, down in the deepest depression, and I really couldn't get myself hardly up off the floor. What I was doing is driving over to my sister's house and just trying to act like I didn't exist in a bedroom there. And the first thing that gave me a sign of hope from that black hole I'd been in for probably a couple weeks was randomly, very randomly, there was a television on, and there was a show on, Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer. You may or may not have ever seen that show. I think Cesar Millan is very different now, but in the beginning, that show was very potent, and it was in the beginning. I'd never heard of him, but I saw the television, and what he was doing with the dogs, the dog whisperer, Cesar Millan, what he was doing, if you can find those old TV shows he did those first few years, they're everything I'm talking about here. So if you like this podcast, a lot of it is taught by Cesar Millan in those first years of his TV show, The Dog Whisperer. And what I saw with my eyes was there was a dog that was so out of control. It was jumping, barking. It was angry, anxious. It was all fearful. It was all sorts of things. It was kind of like Psycho. And then Cesar Millan walked in, and literally in a second or two, the dog was calm next to him, following his commands calmly, like sitting calmly, whereas before it was violently jumping, barking, and out of control. And I saw it. What did he do? What was it? What happened there? He didn't say anything. It was energy. It was energetic and physical. And when I saw it, I thought, wow, there must be something like that is operating in the world that can't be seen, but it's more potent than what can be seen. because no one knew what to do with this dog. And Cesar Millan walked in, and the way he was being with the dog shifted the dog's entire personality in less than 2 or 3 seconds. And the dog was calm and relaxed. I'm like, what was the unseen force that completely changed that dog's personality in like 2 seconds? And that was the first time that I really understood, and with, I guess, in myself, more of a deep level of energy and energy communication. So this podcast is called Luminous Life Force because it's about how to bring the energy in my body up to the very highest, most harmonious and balanced level, so that I and you as a listener become luminous. Our life force, our energy is luminous. And that literally won't happen if you have a totally out of control dog, because your dog is your mirror. So if your dog is really out of control, that's a reflection of energy. And so when we are in our luminous life force energy, our canine Americans are in perfect harmony with us. They're resonating with us. Perfect obedience is kind of like an understatement. There's more of a symbiotic relationship here between me and the dog. And we move as one. We move as one. We're more like one energetically. And so this is an important part of Luminous Life Force. The other thing about the reason I'm doing this episode is because knowing what I know about dogs, and I'll talk about that more in a second, 99% of all of the dogs I see out, and I'm out all the time walking around streets in Austin where there are tons of dogs here, on leash usually, and 99% of them are not being treated in the way that they deserve to be treated. 99%. It's really painful for me to watch. And I'm really excited about doing this podcast, and I hope you find it entertaining and interesting too. More than entertaining, interesting. If you have a dog or know someone who has a dog, consider sharing this podcast with them, because I want to say some what I think are the most important things about your dog and relating with your dog. And then from this point forward, you can get more training in any direction. But I don't hear trainers breaking it down like this very often, so I hope this is useful. In other words, if the dog is your mirror and your dog is energetically psycho, then that is a reflection of your non-luminous life force at the moment. And I'm not judging or criticizing. In fact, I would rather give you a bunch of pro tips here so that you can become one with your dog and they are moving about the world as you want them to. And so here's a little bit more about that. My past with dogs. I had 1 or 2 or 3 dogs for 28 years, almost 30 years. I had, with no breaks, 1 or 2 or 3 dogs. So I don't at the moment. I have taken a break. However, it's put a lot of time in. And in the very beginning, before I got my first dog, around 1990, I saw a dog training video that showed me some important tips, so that when I got my first dog, Rastafari, I used those pretty rudimentary but pretty good tips. It was, looking back, a great system. And when I got my first puppy, 1990 or 91, Rastafari, I did this simple training method. I'm not even going to talk about it on this podcast because I don't feel like I have time, but there was a very simple method that I totally believe in today. And within 1 or 2 months, we had established this relationship with one another where we were one. And from then on, Rastafari and I were one. And I mean, this girl came to the law office with me. She would sit outside and wait for me at the park while I went in to file stuff at the courthouse. She went in my car with me almost everywhere. She went everywhere with me, and I almost never used a leash. When we first got together, after a short time in Austin, I took her to San Francisco, where she lived with me for law school. So she spent 2 or 3 years there in downtown San Francisco on a leash, and just became the perfect dog. And after that, I never even thought about using a leash when I got back to Austin, because she was so perfectly one with me that there was never a question that she was under complete voice control if I wanted her to be. There was never a time Rasta went somewhere I didn't want her to go, really. And so then I had dog after dog after dog, and 2 or 3 at a time after that. And in my history, I studied a lot of Cesar Millan's work, and also at the end, for the last few years, I worked personally with a trainer, dog trainer in Austin, who I highly recommend, Training by Tara out in East Austin. I highly recommend her, who specializes in power breeds and violent dogs, because by that part of my dog career, I was rehabilitating violent dogs, pit bulls. And so I worked with Tara when I had 2 pit bulls to really continue this relationship where we're one. The dogs and I, we are one in a harmonious, balanced, calm one. And they're doing exactly what I want them to do. So I have a long history with canines, including violent and previously violent, before I got them, of course, and working with trainers. And in fact, I almost left out that, I'm so sorry, Kim. I worked directly with a private trainer named Kim for years, because there were 2 years of my life where I was out of town 1/2 of the time. And so I had 2 dogs at the time, and my babies would go live with at the academy, Triple Crown Dog Academy. They would go live there half the time with Kim, the trainer, who was like, I always said he was their father figure. So I've worked with trainers, I've worked with all kinds of dogs, and I'd like to talk to you about the dog, the Canine American. One of the reasons, I have to say one more thing before I start talking about their behavior. The Canine American is the only species that I know of that is 100% under lock and key. Just think about that. In America, United States of America, if a dog is not under lock and key, then there is a government authority after that dog right now to put it under lock and key again. So even cats who live inside so often, there are still feral cats out there that live on their own in the wild without being under a lock and key. And however, you don't find dogs that way, like I said, unless someone's trying to get them now and they've escaped. So can you imagine if every single member of your species, bar none, every single one lived under 100% lock and key, under the 100% control of their randomly chosen steward, human? I mean, I just think it's a desperate situation. And I have a lot of connections with animals, and so it pains me often to see that 99% of the dogs I see walking around my neighborhood and around Austin, in a great neighborhood, are not at their happiest. And that's why I'm making this broadcast right now. So let's talk about it. I hope I can keep this contained a little bit. And I am going to try to just keep it tight. So the overall concepts: if your dog is anxious or fearful or hyper or angry or out of control, no offense, but that's actually not your dog. Your dog is reflecting the energy that it's around. So I don't know if it's just you or other people around the dog, but your dog's attitude is reflecting the humans around its attitude. So if your dog is out of control, follow Darth Vader's advice. Search your feelings, Luke. Search your feelings. Because how are you feeling? So even though the dog is reflecting your energy, dogs are not human. The dog is not carry sophisticated psychoses and manipulative behaviors and complicated anxieties. And your dog does not carry all of these human level psychoses that we carry. They're operating on a simple level. They're not manipulating mentally things. We put a lot of personas on them that just aren't there. They're simple creatures, but they're perfectly mirroring back your energy. They're very wise and loving. And if we let them, they can sense things that we don't sense, and we can let them help us that way. You know, all those years I had dogs, if someone was anywhere near me, I knew. And I didn't have to sense that with my own senses. My dog would just let out just enough information to let me know someone's nearby. So if you want, you can let your dog's extrasensory perceptions actually work with you. And if you become one, you get to have all the benefit of both of your higher senses. You, the human, have many talents that the dog does not have, and it needs you also to play on your own strengths and be the leader. Your dog speaks a very sophisticated language that's always being spoken unless it's asleep. So when a dog is awake, it is communicating at all times. And if the dog is awake, it is speaking a language, and that language is energy. And it's always in a complete, a detailed conversation of energy. The main energy is love, and its heart is open to you at all times. It's the thing about dogs. I mean, it's really so beautiful. They live under lock and key like no one else, and their hearts stay open all the time. It's just so remarkable to me. It's so touching, the way they serve us and the gifts they give us. So that's why I'm making this broadcast, because I want us all to be in harmony with them and make their life easier and make our life easier. So they speak a language of energy, and they're always in communication. So they're always feeding on your energy. The other thing about dogs is they want to be in a pack. They are pack animals. So if you and your dog are alone, like the two of you living together, nobody else is there, you're the pack. You two, that's it, you're the pack. If they're in a house with a bigger family, they see the family as a pack, the pack of humans. And if you're lucky enough to have a dog friend with them, then they are a pack. Everybody is a pack to them, and they want to be in a pack. And they want to be calm and relaxed. And in the human world that we have them in here, they need us, they need you as the dog steward to be the leader of the pack. So even though dogs are pack animals, they love to be in packs, they start crying and hurting when the pack is separated. They need you to be the leader. They don't want to be the leader of the pack in this world. Now, if they were all out in the wild and they were wolves, they would pick their own pack leader. But we put them in this urban jungle where they have to understand streets and cars and highways and skyscrapers and third floor balconies and, you know, a lot of things that they cannot navigate this world. They cannot lead here in our world. We have to be the pack leader. That is the most important thing that I see people not doing. And I'm going to give you a very clear and specific way to tell when you see a person and their dog if the human is the leader or not. And it's very, very simple. And I'm going to tell you that. It's one of the most important things there is. First, I want to say that you must become the leader for your dog, and your dog really needs to go out for walks every day. No matter How big your house is, that does not matter. To your dog, it is small and it's a cage. So even if you have a mansion and you have various little homes around and you have a swimming pool and you have a big yard, that's all nice. But the dog's nature is it needs to get out of that fenced area and that confined area and survey and patrol and survey the larger neighborhood to feed its calm and relaxed energy, because pack animals survey their territory. And so your dog needs to get out on a walk with you for many reasons, but it needs to know what's around it and walk around outside of your home, no matter how big your home is. So all they want, the only thing a dog wants, I'm going to come back to the walk a lot, but the only thing your dog wants is to do what you want it to do. It just wants to please you. That's it. Even if you have a violent dog, there are many things that have gone haywire there, and yet even that dog only wants to please you. You just don't understand what's going on there with it if you can't get it out of the violent state. So the issue between dogs and humans and why the dogs are not always doing what we want them to do is because they don't understand you. So if you are like, I said, get over there, they're like, they don't speak that language. So you're just doing nothing, they're just like looking at you and you're getting frustrated and they're getting frustrated because you're frustrated because they're an energetic mirror to you. So if the more frustrated you're getting, they're getting frustrated, but that's not because of your words. They want to understand what you want them to do so they can do it. It's like all they want to do is make you happy. And for us all together to be a pack and be calm and relaxed and be together. And that's it. And they want to know how they can be a great pack member with you, the leader. So this podcast is about how to clearly get the communication straightened out between you and your dog so that they do know what you want and they can do what you want, because that's what they want to do. So it's really not that hard to learn how to get that communication straight and become harmonious and one with your dog. So the most important thing you can do is establish yourself as a leader of the pack. Take your rightful place. You don't have to be on all the time. You don't have to be working all the time. I'll talk to you about that here. But they want a calm and relaxed leader. Your dog will immediately become your calm and relaxed follower. And that's what I was seeing when I watched that miraculous moment on television where the crazy violent dog calmed down in 2 seconds. The dog immediately became the calm and relaxed follower as soon as a calm and relaxed leader showed up. That was what the dog was waiting for, a calm and relaxed leader who understood how to communicate with it. So these are the things I would suggest that you don't do, and then I'll talk about the things that I would suggest you do. You can listen to me, you can not listen to me, but try these out with your dog. And if you're a calm and relaxed leader, these won't take you the wrong way. So I've already said your dog is not a human. They don't have sophisticated psychoses. So if you're saying like, my dog has all these like crazy things, they manipulate me, they feel guilty, they have all this stuff, like, no, they don't. You're just putting that on them. So don't make your dog into a sophisticated, complicated human when they're not. That doesn't help the communication lines get open. It muddies them all up because you don't understand what's going on with them. If you don't not walk your dog. If you are not walking your dog outside of your compound, then you don't yet understand your dog. The number one telltale sign to know when you see a person out walking their dog, the number one telltale sign that will tell you immediately if that human is a calm and relaxed pack leader is if the dog is walking ahead of the person, even by an inch or in half an inch. If the dog's feet are walking ahead of the human's feet, that means that human is not the leader, and the dog is by definition anxious because it doesn't understand the world we live in, and you're not leading it, and it needs you to lead it through the human world. So even if your dog has become nonchalant about walking ahead of you, I'm watching this constantly all over town, and the dog is not calm and relaxed. If you think your dog is walking ahead of you on the leash on your regular basis on your walks, and you think your dog is calm and relaxed, then I invite you to do some of the things in this podcast and find out what your dog really looks like when it's calm and relaxed, because when it's walking out ahead, it's not. Do not use a retractable leash. Those are not for training, and they're not for relating to your dog through the leash. The retractable leashes are actually harmful to the psychology of your dog because they don't establish your relationship energetically through the leash. Also, if you have a dog that is violent or extremely anxious, they get into what I call a red zone. And when your dog is in a red zone and it is like, say, barking frantically or getting a little bit violent, it's in the red zone. It cannot hear your verbal commands at that point. So please do not try to command your dog verbally when it's already in the red zone, because you've already lost the leadership of the dog and it can't hear you anymore, because hearing is not its top sense that's on at that moment. So even if you're screaming and yelling at your dog, you're actually just increasing its anxiety at that moment. When the dog's in the red zone, don't use verbal command. You have to go to the physical side of things. I also would say don't use clickers and treats to train. I see so many trainers using the clicker, and I think it's not only not productive, it can do a certain thing, that's why they use it, but it's not establishing the relationship you want with your dog where you are one. And I also find it to be very irritating just be hearing that click all the time. And of course your dog could develop a nervous tick. It's just so irritating, and it's unnecessary to have a loving relationship and that harmonious with your dog. And secondly, same with the treats. You don't need treats to train. You need leadership. Calm, relaxed leadership with some of the tips I'm about to give. When we're talking about treats, don't feed your dog ultra-processed kibble that's in the grocery store. It's horrible. It's like going to McDonald's every day. It's just giving them so many diseases and problems if you feed them what's in the grocery store aisle for your dogs. So no unhealthy food or treats. In addition, those rawhides that are usually out there, most of them are full of crappy chemicals that are terrible for your dog. They're giving your dog diseases. So no ultra-processed food or treats. Most of the things in the grocery store aisles are going to be really bad for your dog. Well, River, if you're so judgmental and mean about what we're doing with our dogs, what should we do? Well, here's a few tips. This is the best part of the podcast. What do you do to establish that relationship with your dog? First of all, the relationship. That's the most important part, so that we are both, I and the dog, are calm and relaxed and loving. That's the state that we can always be in. It's the state your dog wants to be in. It's their natural state. And so all we're doing is helping the dog be in its natural, calm and relaxed state. And I'm going to be there as well with it, which is the best for me also. Once we're there, the dog will do anything I want, even without any clickers and treats. The incentive for the dog is that it wants to make me happy, and I'm going to let it know, Thank you. You've made me very happy. Good girl. Good girl. So first step, calm your own nervous system. Next tip, your body. The language of the dog beyond the energy is physical before it's verbal. So you must get your body involved. Speak first with your body and second with language. So I am, as needed, touching my dogs and guiding them with my hands. If I need to, I will stand, and if I need to, I will use my body to back them into a corner. If I'm trying to show them, I want you over there, I do it with my body. They first speak the language of body. They're always watching how your body's moving in the slightest of details. So there's a lot of training that can happen with the body. If you're just sitting on the couch commanding verbally to your dog, it's like, I don't know what you're saying. Like, I just don't know what you're saying. And that's the only problem. So the physical body shows it what I'm saying. So if I want it to get over there in an area of the room, I'm going to physically get up and lovingly, relaxed and calm, back it into that corner, or move toward it. And there's a way with my body to get it to sit. If this is best on the leash. And I'm using my body. If the dog doesn't want to sit at first, I'm just going to gently, there's a way to do it that doesn't hurt them at all. It's very easy, and just move them physically with my body into the sit position. Good girl. Speak first with your body, then with the language. Next tip, sounds. Consider your dog to have the mind of a 2 or 3-year-old and speak to it that way. So when I do use sound, when I am communicating verbally with my dog and it is not in a place I don't want it to be, and I don't have to use my body, we're already symbiotic enough that I can just use my voice. Remember, they have a very simple mind, and so I always use very simple words. I have a few words that are their vocabulary, and I use only those words. And I always begin with their name and eye contact. So Rasta. Rasta. I have to have her attention. Rasta. My dog Rastafari. Rasta. I don't give any other command until I have her attention. Rasta. Then she's looking at me. Sit. And she sits. So she only knows a few words. Rasta, her name. Sit. Stay. Place. Come here. Up. Down. No. A few things like that. Like there's a list, and that's it. I don't expect her to know any other words. Now, she did learn a lot of other words over time, but as far as training goes, I'm only using those 5 words ever. Like ever. Like Rasta, sit. Rasta, stay. Rasta, come. Rasta, sit. Good. Rasta, down. That's another one. Rasta, place. Place. My dogs, I could point to an area and call it place, and they would stay inside the boundaries of where my finger pointed. Place. So they have very few words they need to know, and you only use those words. You say their name, you have their attention, or maybe snap if you have to. I wouldn't have to. Rasta, sit. And just expect 1 word movement at a time. It's that simple. And if you keep it that simple, then they know what you're trying to tell them to do. That's a very big change for most people. Sometimes I will snap my fingers. Some people have a little sound they make, like ch, ch, like Cesar Millan would use that sound. Ch. Whenever he would do that, ch, his dog would look at him, you know. And once you get to where they are in a symbiotic relationship with you, I would often put a hand sign with the sound as I train them, and then at some point you just use the hand sign. So I could just be like, place, point in a circle, they stay in that circle. Next tip, leashes and collars. Use a simple 6-foot leash, non-retractable. 6 foot, non-retractable. Why? Because that's the training leash. You never want them to be more than 6 feet away from you in the training process, or if you do, you get a long lead. That's a very separate training thing. So 6-foot leash, non-retractable. The leash becomes an energetic line between the dog and I. The leash itself becomes very magic. It's an energetic connection between us. And that will become very magic between you and your dog. So if it's retractable, it loses its magic because the dog is like, oh, I don't know, you want me to come back? I don't know, I'm just running around town on my own. I don't have a leader. I'm just running around in different circles like I want to. The 6-foot leash lets you be the leader because you're going to always be letting the dog know what you want it to do on that leash at all times. You know, part of me being a leader is at all times my dog knows whether they're under my command and I have them under a command, or they're free, which means I don't have them under a command right now. That's their whole life is either I'm under River's command or I'm free. That was another word they would know. When they're free, they're not under my command. And they're calm and relaxed, and they know what the boundaries are of our conduct. But then when I put them under a command, then I keep them under my command until they're free again. So I don't like go, oh, sit, and then go walk around and ignore them. Unless I want them to sit there for a long time. But I don't forget I'm commanding my dog. I keep them under my command until they know they're off my command. We were on the 6-foot leash. Now about the collar. I use a collar that adjusts around my dog's neck based on how the dog moves. There's a simple chain collar. It's just one chain with 2 rings on the 2 ends. That's the best collar. You put it around the dog's neck and then it adjusts. It gets tighter if the dog pulls and it gets looser if the dog doesn't pull. It's a very specific kind. It's simple. They're everywhere in every pet store. Get one of those because what's happening there is when the dog pulls a little bit and that collar around it gets tighter, there's a sound that happens where that chain makes a sound, and it's that sound that's training your dog. It's part of the energetic connection. So I've got my 6-foot leash. I've got my dog next to me healing, and that adjustable kind of collar, chain collar, is on the dog. And so the dog learns to walk next to me in a way so that its collar is just loose enough. And then when the dog starts to go in a direction that would tighten the collar, the sound happens before the collar tightens around the neck. So the dog can correct its behavior before the collar even gets tight around its neck. So a lot of people don't want to use those collars because they're like, no, it'll choke my dog. If you use the collar in a proper way, it guarantees your dog will never choke, because the purpose of that collar is that the dog hears the chain and corrects its behavior before it even tightens around its neck at all. So this is part of the energetic connection and link between you and your dog on the leash, is to have one of that kind of collar. It's a training collar, but it's for their whole life. And now, taking your dog on a walk. This is really, really a centerpiece of the entire relationship. The walk. Taking your dog on those daily walks. I once figured out that I have walked or run, because I would run a lot of miles in my lifetime on the trails, and I would run my dogs with me, and I have walked or run 20 to 30,000 miles with dogs. That's what I added up. And so this walk, we would go miles a day. Walk. At minimum, get out of your housing compound, whether it's an apartment or a mansion. Get out of it with the dog at minimum once a day, and at minimum go around a block or two in your neighborhood. A lot of power breeds and more active dogs need to exercise miles a day on the leash, walking or running. But anyway, get your dog out on at least one walk a day for many, many reasons. Your dog needs to explore the neighborhood around you in order to be calm and relaxed by their nature. They need to know, I've looked around the territory and we're safe. Your dog also needs to have that kind of exercise for their psychological stability. It's not just because they need strong muscles. It really isn't. It's about their psychological stability depends upon exercise. They're not exactly like us. They're a little bit different. They're still animals. And also, your dog needs to work for you. And it needs to know when it's working for you. And the walk is the best way possible to show a dog that you are the leader and it's working for you. And there's a radical difference between a dog who takes a walk every day and a dog that never gets outside to walk. Psychologically, the dog who, even if they are tiny and teacup, people are like, well, my teacup poodle doesn't need walks. Yes, that's why it's so unstable in the house. Because yes, it doesn't matter what size of dog. The nature of the dog is that it needs to get out every day on the walk with you as the leader, so it can know I'm in a pack. I have a calm and relaxed leader, and I've surveyed the area. We're safe, and I've done my work for today. I've earned my, keep and approval of my steward. And that is for their psychological stability, not physical, psychological stability. This is your opportunity to lead. So you're leading the dog. Here is the number one tip that is in this entire podcast. Walk in front of your dog at all times. You're going to have your dog on the leash until they are perfectly voice trained. I see people also all the time take their dogs off the leash and the dog is not voice trained. That's not okay, because of the obvious. Your dog can run into the street or hurt someone, hurt itself. My dog would never be off the leash unless they would be exactly the same off the leash as if I had them on the leash, which was Rastafari. She for years was off leash with me because if I told her to heel, she would heel perfectly off leash. There was never a sidestep. So she would act exactly as she was on the leash, off the leash, and that's when they're ready to be off leash in public. So on the leash, the number one tip in this entire podcast is to show your leadership of your dog, to help your dog be psychologically calm and relaxed as its nature is and as it wants to be. For psychological purposes, always walk in front of your dog. And I mean that if you're both going to be walking in one direction, it's going to be on a 6-foot leash, no more, and you're going to have the leash. You're going to have the dog right next to you, and the dog is going to heel. And the definition of heel is you are walking next to me, but you are just slightly behind me because I'm leading. And the reason you're just slightly behind by even if it's an inch or even a half an inch, the dog is watching that inch or that half an inch. Believe me. If you have a power breed on your hands, it's watching that all the time. It's always trying to just mess with you on it. The dog knows if your foot is going down on the sidewalk ahead of its feet or not. Believe me. And it's making a psychological impression on your dog, because if your dog's feet are ahead of yours, it's the leader in its language. Without any exception, it's that simple. So if your dog's feet are ahead of yours while you're walking your dog, the dog is the leader of the pack, and it's uncomfortable there because it doesn't understand our world of traffic lights and bicycles and cars and scooters and electric bicycles and streets and all the things we have here. It's not fair to make your dog try to lead you, and in its language it speaks. If its feet are ahead of yours, it's having to lead. It's an anxious state to put your dog in. So even if your dog is not, looks like it's wagging its tail, I said this once, but I want to make the point. If you think your dog is not anxious while it's walking out in front of you all the time, then you haven't seen your dog yet calm and relaxed, because that's not it. And I see them so anxious out there, walking in front of the human. And the human just doesn't know. Just put the dog behind you and put your feet in front of the dog, and don't let it ahead of you, because you're showing your dog in a calm and relaxed way, I'm your leader. I've got this. My partner and I will heel sometimes, because when we're walking long ways together, if we don't decide who's leading, we can start running into each other when one of us is trying to turn on that corner and the other one isn't trying to turn on the corner. So we're like, hey, may I heel to you? And then what that means is I'm walking right now. If I'm heeling to my partner, I'm walking next to him, but just almost imperceptibly behind him, because if he turns to the left or turns to the right, I'm turning to the left or the right there with him. And that's how you know the dog is heeling, because the dog is just enough behind you so that if you do a very quick right turn, it's got that turn with you instead of running into you. That's what heel is for. It means the leader can turn sharp right, sharp left, or in circles, and the follower who is heeling properly, which is a little bit behind, can adjust very quickly and immediately and not run into you. It's a beautiful, energetic relationship to get into, the healing relationship, and that you never let your dog's feet get out in front of yours. This also is very, very important for crossing the thresholds as you leave your house, or any threshold. So if you're leaving your house, your dog is jumping out in front to get across the front door threshold before you to go outside, you've lost the leadership right there. And you may not be able to get it back very easily, because you have already shown you don't know how to lead your dog. So literally walking through the door, any door that my dog is under my command, I walk through the door first. I'm talking about any doorway, because the dog speaks that language, and so they're watching who gets out first. And if the dog goes out the door first, it's not going to listen to you the rest of the time, because you have just announced to it in its language, you're in charge, I'm not. This may seem nitpicky, but this is the actual language your dog speaks. It's physical. It's watching your physical body to see, are you in front? Did you walk through the door before me? When I'm training a dog and it's a bit out of control, it tries to go out the door in front of me. But I will use my entire body to make sure that my foot goes across the door first. It will not happen that its foot gets across the door first. If it did get its foot across the door, we would back up, go around in a circle, and approach the door again. There will never be a time when a dog under my command has its foot out the door before my feet go out the door, because that would be just me completely giving up on our relationship together. And then the dog is anxious, because now I don't know who's leading me, and I'm in a concrete jungle, and I want to go catch a squirrel, but I could get hit by a car, but no one's stopping me. So, my darling, step into that new relationship with your sweet canine American. It's not fair to your dog to make it lead in this human world. So if you're not walking your dog is going to be getting psychologically anxious or unstable in some way. And if you walk your dog, but your dog is out in front of you, your dog is going to be getting anxious and psychologically unstable in some way. Lead your dog with calm and relaxed leadership, and the walk is the way to do it. It works them. When they come home, even if it was a shorter walk, they are going to be so much more calm and relaxed. Free time. Like I said earlier, I do give free time, and usually on a walk. It depends on how long the walk is and where we're headed and all that. But often I would walk my dog. Of course, they're never in front of me. They would heel, and then I would get to a park and I would say free, and if I want to, and for 2 or 3 minutes on the leash, the dog can sniff, and I would even show it, I'm following you around. And the dog would be like, wait, what? You are? It's kind of like, wait, are you sure? But that has to be with the command free, and then there has to be a command now heel, and that ends the free time. There has to be a beginning and an end of the free time when the dog is working for you, when it's under your command. And so on leash, I would be at a park. We've walked 30 minutes or 45 minutes already. It's worked for me. It's earned this. Then at the park, sometimes I'd be like, okay, free. And I would even just follow the dog around on the leash, but that would last for like 2 or 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, heel, let's go back over here and do stuff. Now, Rastafari, I would take her up to Alamo Square Park in San Francisco, which is beautiful. We lived right next to the park, a couple of houses away from the beautiful and famous scenic Alamo Square Park in San Francisco. So we would go there every day. I would walk her on the leash right next to me, heeling, downstairs in our apartment, out the door, on the city street. We'd stop at the street and she'd sit every time we stopped. We'd wait for the cars to go by, and then she would, without me needing to really say anything, she'd be next to me doing that. And then we'd get to the park. She's under my command. And that park had a wild and fabulous dog park at the top of the hill. So she knew when it was time, and I would let her, I'd sit, take the leash off, unhook the collar. She would still be sitting. I would have the leash off, and then I would give her the command, free, boom, and she would charge into the dog park and start just running and romping with all the dogs, and they would just be tackling one another and running in circles and sniffing each other to their delight. And then whenever I was ready, like, Rasta, come, let's go, boom, she's back over next to me, back under my command, and I'm leading again by walking ahead of her, at least by a half an inch. So there's the walk and the free. Now I want to say also about jumping. I don't kick dogs, and if a dog is ever going to come and jump on me, that's completely unacceptable. And none of my trained dogs would ever jump on me, but in the beginning when you're training them, or if you have a dog who jumps, it's completely unacceptable. It's not okay, and it shows that they're not calm and they're not relaxed. But what I don't use words, I raise my knee. So if the dog is jumping up on me on my left side, I raise my left knee up in the air and guard it. The dog hits my shin and falls off. So all I do is just raise my knee. It's not a kick. I'm simply raising my knee up and indicating this is my territory. The dog only can hit my shin, and then I proceed to the training because, like I said, none of my trained dogs would ever be jumping. That would never happen. I can't even imagine it really. But if they did, I would raise my leg, and it's not a kick. It's just simply a defensive measure, and they don't get to get their jump on your body. If they're jumping on you, they're dominating you. No exceptions. You're not the leader, and they're dominating you and they don't respect you. No exceptions. If your dog is up climbing on you and licking your face anytime that you didn't ask it to do that, it is disrespecting you because you've not established a relationship of respect. There are many things dogs do to show you they're dominant and they're the leader, and they're only doing that to try to ask you to start leading them. They're just showing you, like, dude, are you seriously going to keep me as a leader? So I have a few more things I want to say, and then I'll start to sum this up. I have some things to say about when someone knocks at the door, because there are so many situations where the dogs are anxious when you're at home and someone knocks on the door. And that's so unnecessary and so sad, because it's a psychological instability and it's so unnecessary. So if your dog is getting hyper or jumpy or barky when someone knocks at the door, or when you're out and you walk into a new space or you walk into someone else's place with the dog, it wants you to help it understand what's happening and to be calm and relaxed. So my dogs would let me know someone was at the door. They would always be like, "Ruh!" one time. And then I would say, "Thank you." Place. And my dog would go sit on their place, their bed, or wherever I told them the place was, because I could just circle my finger and make a place, and they would be there. I would say, "Thank you." Place. The dog knows it did its job by telling me someone's at the door, which is all it needed to do is one bark. But thank you. Place. And then they knew that I am the calm and relaxed leader and I have this handled. And so they can calmly stay on their bed and calmly wait while I go answer the door and greet the person who is there and do whatever else I want to do with the person, without a dog jumping on us or barking or doing anything other than waiting happily on their bed for me to give them an okay that they can get off their bed. And they're calm and they're relaxed because I'm calm and relaxed. And they know what to do. I know how to communicate with them. And that's all they want to do, is do what we want them to do. And so they know what I want them to do. And that's so calming. So that's the way it should proceed when someone knocks at the door. It's just about understanding how to get there. So in the very beginning, if your dog is doing that when someone knocks at the door, check your own energy. And then you might have to start by, you can actually train the dog by having someone to come to knock on your door a few times on purpose, and you have your dog on a leash. And then someone knocks on your door, and then you just, with your body, like I said, with your body, you just show your dog what you want it to do when someone knocks at the door. You stay calm so it doesn't mirror your anxious energy. So you stay calm. You show it with a leash what you want it to do, and then you can go answer the door. And if you have a friend who will help you come to the door a few times, the dog will understand at some point what you're wanting it to do. You just have to repeat it. You have to repeat it a few times. But remember, if you have this energetic connection and right relationship with your dog, it's not going to be hard. Like I said, every time I've gotten a dog, after the initial period where they're understanding the words I'm talking about, they have those 5 or 6 to 10 words down, and they understand the energy of the place and that I'm the leader, it doesn't take long. And there's no more behavior problems. It's just about understanding something new. So I want to say about food and treats. I fed my dogs either food I cooked in the kitchen, which had a lot of rice in it that I cooked, and then raw eggs, chicken, and some other meat. And then I went to not cooking for the dogs anymore, and I fed raw food from the pet store. Not that I would go to the human grocery store and buy meat raw and give it to them. That's not what I did. I went to the pet store and got raw food, which is in a frozen section, and it's a higher quality food, and it is not just meat. It's mostly meat, but also some other things mixed into the right proportions. And so I would feed my dog the more expensive raw food. And of course, you might not be able to afford the more expensive food, but I do want to say that the grocery store dog food is like feeding your dog ultra processed fast food. So about two more things I want to say is, one is about violence. I have never allowed a dog's teeth to touch my skin while that's a very, very serious no. And I will smack their nose. And this is in the beginning of the training. If you have a puppy, or if it's the beginning of the training of a dog, if their tooth touches human skin, my skin, they get a fast slap on the nose and a no. And they know that's a no. And they know what happened. I've heard some people go like, well, they don't even know what happened. Yes, they do. That's the language they speak. They're speaking a very clear language, and they know that if their tooth got to touch your skin, you're out of control, you're not their leader, and they can be violent with you. And that's the end of it. So that was never any kind of, that was a zero tolerance. The tooth does not touch the skin. Having said that, there are some simple things to do with wild and violent dogs, but this podcast isn't long enough to go into it. And I did start to rehabilitate violent pit bulls, and I have been bit. I've been to the emergency room 2 times from dog bites on my arm. So I haven't always succeeded in keeping the teeth off my arms. But those were very, very rare and wild incidences, and that was not part of the training, and there was still a zero tolerance. It was just a little more complicated. And by the way, I have never lost a dog fight. I have been in a few dog fights, meaning that if there is a dog attacking another dog, I will separate them. And I have never lost a dog fight. I might have had to go to the emergency room afterward. A couple times, actually, I have gone to get some stitches afterward, but I still did not lose the battle or the fight. The dogs were where I wanted them to be by the end of that situation. So if you have a violent dog, you might need to get some extra help, but I will tell you that these same exact tips apply. I obtained a dog from my neighbor that was so violent, a pit bull that was so violent that I could not I knew that it would be way too dangerous to make eye contact with the dog. And when I went to, my neighbors gave me this dog, and when I went to get it, I was like, you put the leash on the dog, the collar. You put this collar and leash on the dog. I'll take the leash and take the dog, but you put the collar on. And the owner of the dog was too afraid of the dog to put the collar on. It took this long process, but I was like, this is a non-negotiable. This is your dog, and I'm going to take the dog, but you have to get the collar on the dog and hand me the leash. And at that point, I'll take the dog off your hands. And I'll just tell you what I did with that dog. I had 1 or 2 others with me the day I went to get that girl. 1 or 2, I think 1. Let's say I had 1 other dog with me, my girl, Chi, perfectly trained. And so I went to get Naya, and she was extremely violent. And the owner finally got a way to get the collar on her and gave me the leash. And as the second my hand hit that leash, because remember that energetic connection? The second my hand hit that leash, we started running. And we ran. Now, Chi was used to running miles. She was running calmly next to me on one side, and Naya was bucking and barking and stomping and jumping and doing everything she could to pull on the leash and get off and try to bite me. And I was just running. And we ran for like 2 or 3 miles. She couldn't catch my hand to bite it because I was just running. And what happens is that works her. It worked her. It showed her who the leader was. And my other dog, who's calm and relaxed, was training her nervous system at the same time I was training her nervous system. So after our 2 or 3 mile run, no stopping for breath or anything, just because she was so much energy, we ran maybe 3 miles. And then by the end of it, I had established leadership. We had retrained her nervous system to some extent. We had shown her we're calm and relaxed. And that's where you're going to be from now on with us. And I had tired her out and worn her out a bit because she wasn't used to that kind of exercise, even though her body's so strong. And after that, we went thousands of miles together. And then I made sure that she had used the bathroom in my backyard. I made sure she had peed and pooped. I saw her peep, saw her poop. And then I had a bedroom that was ready with a bed in it, and it was dark. And then I put her in that bedroom and closed the door, and she got to be in a dark room and think about it for a while. And that let her training set in, and she thought about it. And after, I think it was a couple hours in there of her meditating on what had just happened and processing it, at that point then, if I opened that bedroom door, she had to sit and let me put the leash on her collar if she ever wanted to get out that door again. And so she learned that very quickly, and I was calm enough. And if she wasn't going to do it, I just close the door again. And she learned very quickly, if I want to cross this threshold of this room, then I need to listen to this lady. And all she wants me to do is sit, and she's calm. And I kind of like following her. And I'm telling you, we had the best life together. Best life. I'm going to use some pictures of her, I think, for this podcast. So if you don't get the pictures to this podcast, jump on my email list, because there are some pictures that go with podcasts. I'm going to show you Naya, how calm and beautiful she was. Maybe some of the others I'll show in there that I've had. And the last thing I want to talk about with dogs is that if you're going to get a puppy and you're looking for a new dog, quickly I want to say that dogs have 2 scales or continuums of you can look at them and assess them on. One of them is energy level, high or low. So every dog is somewhere on the continuum or the circle of high energy, low energy. That doesn't mean that if you've had a dog that you never walk and you've overfed it and it's laying there fat and it never goes anywhere, that doesn't mean it's a low energy dog. That might be a super high energy dog because it just doesn't have what it needs. It's not healthy. So high energy, low energy is like when your dog is healthy, it has a natural energetic state, such as the hound dog laying on the porch all day is what you would call a more low energy dog. And the pit bull running around all day and that can't stop is more what you call high energy dog. And then one scale is low energy, high energy, and the other scale is dominant, submissive. And so every dog has a healthy, natural state of a little more dominant or a little more submissive. Natural, healthy state. So if you're going to get a new puppy, you can kind of assess what your household wants. Do you want a higher or lower energy dog? Do you want a dominant or submissive dog by nature? And then when you go shopping for your puppy or your dog, you can assess their energy level and their dominance level if you know what to look for on the dominance level. It's very, very simple. And you can make sure you get the dog that fits your household the best. For me, after beautiful Rastafari, who I would categorize as happy-go-lucky, she would probably be in the middle on the dominant submissive towards submissive naturally, and on the middle to to lower energy on the natural energy level, even though we traveled 10,000 miles together, but still her natural energy level was relaxed. So after Rasta, I went much more toward power breeds that had very high energy dominant behaviors and natures. So those are some scales you can look at dogs on to assess them in their healthy natural state. So remember, energy is how they speak first. Check out your energy. How's your energy? If your dog is acting really strange, how's your energy? Secondly, your physical body is how they communicate. So if you're walking your dog and they're out in front, you are communicating with them. I'm out of control. You're the leader. Good luck in this human world. And your physical body is showing them that. Pretty much lastly is when they hear verbal communication. However, if they're calm and relaxed and trained, it can all be verbal. They're because they're in a great energetic zone. And they can even go to hand commands. And I never use treats or clickers. Those just give me like a nervous twitch. So my darling, I know this might have been a really strange podcast for a sexuality expert, but if your energy is not right with your dog, your energy is not going to be right with your lover. And your dog is actually the telltale sign because it's mirroring you. So yes, I do know a lot about a person when I meet their dog. And so if you want to have a luminous life force, that's going to include that you and your dog are in harmony, that you are energetically one, that you are always their calm and relaxed leader. And it's very beautiful and symbiotic. And that's a household of luminous life force. So remember, darling, your dog wants nothing more than to make you happy. That's the only reason it's living. Help your dog succeed by understanding the way it communicates, what it needs in order to be a deep, wise, loving partner for you, for the life of it. It's possible to have a deep, loving relationship, but the dog still will not be human. It will be a canine capacity level, but it will be able to feel everything energetically and be in touch with nature in a way that you probably can't be. So it can help you by sensing things you don't sense. And when you're in a perfect communication, you know what it's telling you. And it can teach you so many things about being human. Thanks for listening to this podcast about Canine Americans. Yes, I do want to hear from you. So leave a comment or shoot me an email by visiting my site at riverroaring.com and click on Let's Connect. And you can shoot me a little old email. Because, my love, I'm on earth to support all of those who are called to bring maximum love and light into their lives, liberating self-expression in all the realms where all is sacred, and most of all, and especially and including our animal relationships. Because together we can step into a more harmonious vibration. We can fly higher, shifting human consciousness forever for the highest good of all the beings, and all the animals, and all the puppies, and all the babies, and all the humans. So may the love be with you, my darling, and may the love be with us all.